Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we don't have an MC, so Sam and I will just dribble the ball between the two of us. Today's function is a bit informal, in the sense that we just told, we did advertise it or broadcast it, and I told a few friends to just call up people they know and come and attend to today's function. What we want to do basically is to talk to some people in Thailand, basically Malaysians who work here, live here, who have been trapped here and can't go home for whatever reason, so that we can explore the possibility of setting up a branch of MCLM or the Thailand chapter of MCLM. I'm on actually a 100-day whirlwind tour. I was in Thailand a month earlier, mid-Jan till mid-February. Then we were about 1.5 months in Australia and New Zealand, and I did most of the cities. I was in Perth, Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, and then I went over to Auckland. There's about 4 million people in New Zealand and 40 million sheep, and quite a large number of them Malaysians. I mean, I'm talking about the people, not sheep, yeah? What we want to do basically is to introduce MCLM to you. There's a lot of misconception and wrong perception, certainly. It is human nature to resist change. If you're used to driving to work using a certain road, you'll keep driving that road even though that road is badly jammed, and even when there's an alternative. So I find even people who have lived 30 years in London, for instance, when we go somewhere, they always take a certain road. And I say, do you know, I use this sat-nav, and of course 30 years ago when they first moved to London, there was no sat-nav. And I said, according to the sat-nav, there's a shortcut. And of course, they didn't know that because they never driven that road before. They know that to get from point A to point B, you go through C, D, E, F, G, and it goes right round. But that's human nature. We're comfortable with a certain thing, we'll stay with that. And if we say, let's introduce something new, and the new is, and they're always suspicious of something new. They're very troubled with something new. We're so used to a certain way. We're so used to a certain culture. And to change is an effort. I mean, when you change, you got to relearn everything all over again. When you come to Thailand, then you have to learn a whole new culture. It's a totally different culture, different language, and and all sorts of things. And people are lazy, basically, to have to relearn. When you're comfortable and used to a certain way, you'll stick with it. So what we want to do is to try to introduce a new political culture to you. And there's going to be a lot of hard work because you got to relearn, go back to school all over again. You got to figure out now, how do you do things differently? Why can't we continue doing it the same way we've always done it? Now this is what we are going to be talking to you. Now I'm going to talk about just the general aspects of the whole thing. Sam will be going very specific down to details about what is MCLM, the Malaysian Civil Liberties Movement. When was it mooted? Who were the people behind it? How come it took 6 years before we actually got it up and running officially? From the day of inception to the day of delivery took 6 years. Whereas it takes only 9 months to conceive and deliver a baby, it took us 6 years to do the same with MCLM. So it's fine. We'll explain all that, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. We're going to stick to maybe an hour and do maybe another hour of Q&A, because I'm sure there's a lot of very controversial questions you want to ask me. Things you've heard, things you've read, things you may need clarification, And if you ask me nicely enough, there's a good chance I'll reply. So your presence here tonight is basically our effort to plant a seed. And we hope that we can successfully plant that seed tonight. And from that seed, it will germinate into, blossom into something. And that something is an extension of MCLM, which we launched late last year in London. And thereafter, we slowly went all over the world to set up, initially, of course, Australia and New Zealand. And now we're looking at Thailand. I've been invited to Hong Kong. I've been invited to Singapore. I said, yeah, slowly, one by one. I'll be almost 100 days away from home. I do want to go back. And so if we can get MCLM going all over the world, hopefully Thailand will be amongst the pioneers. The fact that we are so close, Thailand and Malaysia, in terms of geographical proximity, is so much easier for instance, Sam, to make weekend trips up here and, help settle certain things that need to be helped. And to be honest, he'll still come here if there's nothing to be settled. All you got to do is give him a phone call, and he'll be there before you know it. So this is basically what we want. So you're a small group, yes. We started with a small group in Australia, a group of 20 or 30. And then by the time we moved to Melbourne, it was a 600. We had 600 people coming for the function. And it's been growing. And there are 1 million Malaysians. 1 million Malaysians living outside Malaysia. And there's a lot. Of course, the bulk of these Malaysians are living in Australia. UK, of course, the other place where there's a lot of Malaysians. And we find that most of these Malaysians who live overseas not because they do not love Malaysia. They do. But because of necessity, educational, career reasons, and so on. Yeah, some do go away because they have to get married. But the majority is because of education, because of their career, because they can't find a good opportunity or good life in Malaysia. And that in itself is something wrong. Because Malaysia has lost not only the brains. We're not just talking about brain drain here. We're also talking about capital flight. A lot of Malaysians who live overseas invest heavily overseas. They buy property not only to live. They also invest in businesses. They also buy property to earn rental. And when we look at the amount of investments Malaysians have placed in other countries, if that same money had been brought back to Malaysia, and if that money had been invested in all sorts of businesses and property in Malaysia, then probably our ringgit will be 1-to-1 with the Singapore dollar, rather than what it is today. And does the government realize? Not only has it lost its brains, it's lost a lot of its wealth as well. And this is because Malaysians no longer have confidence in Malaysia. And Malaysians feel they need to leave Malaysia for their security, for their future, and a lot of them for their children's future, because they don't see their children getting a good education, and after that education being able to get a good career, build up a good career in Malaysia. But we're running away. 1 million Malaysians with their family, with their money, we're running away. And we're saying to hell with Malaysia. So Malaysia die. So what? But a lot of us, a lot of those 1 million Malaysians overseas have friends, have families still back in Malaysia. Some of them even have their parents still back in Malaysia. And they go back every year to see their parents. A lot of them, even if they don't have friends or family in Malaysia, they still have one thing left in Malaysia, and that is their heart. And they left their heart back in Malaysia. And they do not want to leave Malaysia emotionally. They only leave Malaysia physically. But what are you doing about it? Living in another country, pining about the state of affairs in Malaysia, wondering when Malaysia is going to join the ranks of the failed states. What are we doing about it? If our heart is in Malaysia, don't we, overseas Malaysians, want to contribute to the improvement of the country? Maybe you say, I can't go back because I already, stayed overseas so long. I've already built up a new home, a new network of friends. And, my roots are planted deep in my adopted country. Going back for Chinese New Year, Hari Raya, for school holidays, yes. Going back to live and to work, impossible. But you still go back. You still do keep in touch. You still have friends and families. That's because your heart is still left in Malaysia. So now, what can you as Malaysians do for your country? How can you serve your country? A lot of people die for their country. You look at what happened in Vietnam. The Vietnamese died in the millions just to build up a country. It was a ruined country. And today, everyone's going to Vietnam. I'm planning to go there myself to see what the place looks like. Money is flowing into Vietnam. Today, Vietnam is one of the, if any businessman here, I can see, you tell me one of the places you want to go. The places you want to bring your, not your ringgit, your US dollar. You don't even play ringgit anymore. You want to bring your US dollar and invest in Vietnam. You have confidence in Vietnam. And a couple of years ago, if you looked at the top 5 ASEAN countries, Singapore probably was number 1, Malaysia was probably number 2, then we had Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei, and today, Vietnam, which was not even on the list of top 5 countries, is, I don't know, number 1, number 2, or whatever at the moment. Thailand as an example. When we went through that recession, Thailand didn't understand what the word recession meant. It does not exist in the Thai vocabulary. And their industries are so strong. They will not only survive on tourism, they survive also on cottage industries, which is very big in Thailand, So here, when we look at how other countries perform and we compare with how Malaysia performs, if you live in Malaysia, you work in Malaysia, you walk down Bangsa for your teh tarik and roti canai, you don't look outside the country, you say this is paradise. This is a fantastic place. The government has done a great job. And then when you go overseas, you live overseas, you work overseas, you have a career overseas, and you compare with Malaysia, you say, shit, this country is so blessed. This country has everything, including corruption, including abuse of power, everything. It's got the good things, it's got the bad things, it's got more bad things than good things. How can we get rid of all the bad things and just leave the good things? And this is where people's power comes in. This is where you, part of the 1 million Malaysians who live overseas, who have the ability to think, who have the ability to rationalize, who have the ability to analyze, who have the ability to see good from bad, to differentiate between what is good and what is not good, you are going to be the front line of the perjuang, of the perjuangan, or of the struggle to improve Malaysia. We talk about our right to vote, hak mengundi. Let's bring our struggle up to the next level. We no longer talk about hak mengundi or right to vote. We talk about tanggung jawab mengundi, your responsibility to vote. Your right to vote is there, guaranteed in the Constitution. Nobody can take it away from you.